I opened the window of my small hotel room and let the wind brush against my face. It was early afternoon, and the city below moved with restless energy. People hurried along the pavement. Students cycled past little shops, laughing as buses paused again and again near the university gates. The world felt alive, loud, determined, young. I was exhausted after a long week of work, so I had driven from my home near Brighton to Oxford for a quiet weekend. I told myself I only needed rest, space, silence. My name is Helen Carter. I am 50 years old, and I own a small but successful interior design company. I spent decades building it from nothing. I worked late nights, sacrificed holidays, and carried responsibilities that felt heavier than I ever admitted. From the outside, people see a composed woman, confident, polished, independent. They notice my tailored suits, my neat hair, the calm way I speak. Many assume my life is perfect, but perfection can be very lonely. I live alone in a large, tidy house where sometimes I feel like a visitor instead of its owner. Some evenings, the silence echoes louder than any crowd. That afternoon, after checking into the hotel, I walked to a university cafe I often visited when I came to Oxford. I liked its atmosphere, the quiet ambition in the air. The cafe was filled with young voices and hopeful plans. Students leaned over notebooks, debated ideas, and dreamed openly about the future. Watching them always stirred something gentle inside me. For brief moments, I felt younger too. I ordered coffee and sat near the window. Sunlight spilled across the table and warmed my hands. For a few peaceful minutes, life felt simple. Then I noticed him. A young man stood near the counter, studying the menu. He looked about 25. His dark curls fell slightly over his forehead. His clothes were clean but worn. He opened his wallet, paused, and something in his posture quietly collapsed. His shoulders lowered, his lips pressed together. He looked hungry and proud. He did not ask for help. He did not meet anyone's eyes. He simply stood there with silent worry written across his face. Something inside me shifted. I recognized that look. I remembered counting coins in my early 20s, working in a small shop while saving for night classes. I remembered pretending not to be hungry. I rarely spoke to strangers, but that day felt different. I stood, walked toward him, and said softly, "Would you join me for lunch?" His eyes widened in surprise. Later, I learned his name was Daniel Reed. He was a literature student and worked part-time at a bakery to support himself. His parents lived far away, and he tried not to burden them. He admitted he had skipped breakfast. He spoke carefully, as though each word required courage. There was something sincere in his face, something open. When I offered to pay, he hesitated, embarrassed. But hope flickered in his expression, and finally he agreed. We sat together. He ate quickly at first, then slower as conversation replaced hunger. He spoke about his classes, about writing stories someday, stories about real people, about quiet strength and hidden pain. His passion was bright and unpolished. I found myself smiling more than usual. When he laughed at something I said, I felt lighter, as if the years between us briefly dissolved. I assumed that would be the end of it, a small act of kindness, a passing moment. But 2 days later, when I returned to the cafe, he walked in and saw me. His face lit up, and to my surprise, so did mine. Soon our meetings became routine. Coffee turned into walks through the park behind the library. We sat by the river, watching the water slide beneath old bridges. Sometimes we talked for hours. Sometimes we sat in comfortable silence. Daniel listened, truly listened. He asked about my business, about the choices I had made, about the life I built alone. When I spoke, he looked at me as though my words mattered deeply. It had been a long time since anyone had looked at me that way. Gradually, something shifted. One afternoon, as green leaves shimmered in the breeze, his fingers brushed mine. Just for a second, I did not pull away. Another day, his hand lingered longer. I told myself it was harmless. He was young, affectionate, grateful, but my heart knew better. One evening by the river, he gently moved a strand of hair from my face. His touch was careful, almost reverent. My breath caught. "You make me feel stronger," he said quietly. His voice carried something steady and vulnerable. I felt confused and alive. Near him, I did not feel 50. I felt open, seen, awakened. At night, I thought of his voice, his questions, the warmth in his gaze. I told myself it was friendship, but it wasn't. One cool evening, everything changed. We left a small restaurant near the river and walked beneath dim streetlights. The air smelled of rain and grass. We stopped near the college gardens. He turned to me, eyes soft. Without speaking, he stepped closer and placed his hand gently against my cheek. I knew what was coming. I closed my eyes. When he kissed me, it was slow, almost hesitant, as if asking permission without words. Then it deepened. For that moment, I forgot the years between us. I forgot caution. I forgot the careful walls I had built around myself. When the kiss ended, I felt breathless, and I chose not to step away. Our relationship deepened quickly. He began staying at my home, first occasionally, then often, his shoes by the door, his books on the table, his laughter in my kitchen. I felt warmth filling spaces that had been cold for years. He spoke of dreams, of travel, of building a life together. When he suggested a trip to Italy, I agreed. In a small coastal village, beneath golden light and open sky, he told me he loved me, and I believed him. When he asked me to marry him, I hesitated, but only for a heartbeat. We had a simple ceremony overlooking the sea. No guests, just vows carried away by warm wind. I truly believed love had arrived late, but sincerely. For weeks after, everything felt perfect, until the shadows began. One evening, he came home pale and tense. He told me his former girlfriend, Mira, was threatening him. He said she planned to accuse him of marrying me for money. He said she demanded payment to stay silent. He looked ashamed, afraid. I felt protective, so I helped. He thanked me with trembling gratitude, but the requests returned, again and again. Each time I ignored the whisper in my chest, telling me something was wrong. Love, I told myself, means support. Then one morning, I woke to silence. His side of the bed was cold. His clothes were gone. His phone switched off. My bank accounts emptied slowly, carefully, month by month. There had been no Mira, no threats, only a patient lie. The betrayal hollowed me. For days, I could not breathe properly. I had not only lost money, I had lost trust in my own judgment. But I stood up. I protected my company. I rebuilt, and I learned. Love can feel warm and brilliant, and still hide sharp edges beneath it.
Now I live near the sea. I am softer but wiser. I still believe in kindness, but I also believe in listening the quiet voice inside that warns us when something feels wrong. It was a painful lesson, but it is mine.